Welcome to Escapes with Nigel. I'm Nigel Napier-Andrews, and this is the Spirit Catcher, part of the MacLaren Art Centre collection, where, unexpectedly, they have 23,000 Soviet-era press photographs. Udivительny. It's amazing. In Russian. We're at the MacLaren Art Centre. I'm talking to Carolyn Bell-Farrell, who's the executive director. Carolyn, how did the MacLaren Art Centre come into being?
The MacLaren Art Centre was incorporated in 1986 as the Barrie Gallery project and opened a storefront shop in 1988. In 1989, Morris MacLaren, who was a well-known businessman in the community, left his home, which was called Maple Hill on Toronto Street, to form a permanent residence for an art gallery in Barrie.
I can't help but notice that we're in a wonderful old building, and it's right next to a very modern building. There must be some reason for this.
Yes, the facility opened in 2001, and we're standing in a 1917 Carnegie Public Library, which is part of the MacLaren Art Centre, and we have a brand new facility that was designed by Siamak Harari with a contemporary wing. So I think it's a beautiful juxtaposition of the older building with the newer building. We've kept the tradition and the feel. Obviously the inside has been renovated here, and it offers a terrific space for events and for exhibitions.
So we've been down to the waterfront and seen the Spirit Catcher. Tell me about that.
It's a piece by Ron Baird, who's an artist originally from Innisfil, and he was commissioned to produce 2 pieces for Expo 86, and the Spirit Catcher was one of them. So it has since really become an icon for Barrie and a symbol of the city. And it's wonderful. It's a work that is on city-owned land, but was the first work accessioned into our collection.
That's a very public piece for the MacLaren. How else do you get involved in the community?
Georgian College has a School of Design and Visual Arts, so we're really fortunate to have a great partnership with them. A lot of the artist talks that we would do around our exhibitions, we program there, free to the public, which means we're drawing 80 to 100 people, including all the students and faculty. Other ways we reach out to the community is participating in festivals. The city offers a range of different festivals, including Winterfest, Celebrate Barrie, Culture Days, Kempen Fest, as many communities do. So we provide art activities at those different events. One of the programs we run in the schools is called Van Gogh, and where we bring practicing regional artists from this community into the schools to lead workshops. And they go from kindergarten to grade 8, and we have a variety. Right now I think we're offering 22 different programs in French and English, and we reach approximately 8,000 students each year.
Couldn't help but notice as I walked in that there were 4 marvelous prints on the wall downstairs. Tell me about those.
That suite of 4 prints are by Joe Fafard, who is a leading artist from Regina, Saskatchewan. And Joe was instrumental in a project that was done here for the International Ploughing Match in 1997. He came and sort of offered a drawing of that could be used as the design to plant 50-acre crops, and we offered seeds to our community. 200 people came out and helped to plant the seeds, and it was in the image of a horse, which is one of Joe's signature images. So this is a suite that he did a couple years later for us. They date from 1999, and they give you an idea of what those different visions would have been across different seasons. We also have a wonderful program called the Benefactor Program. It is a level of membership that offers an opportunity to take home a work of art for a year. So artists from the community loan us pieces. We have over 100 artists and up to 150 pieces from the community that are changed every year. So there's a wonderful event that happens late March, and everyone comes together, and once their number is called, they get to select a work of their choice to take home.
What an outstanding program. When we were talking about the permanent collection, we didn't mention the most extraordinary aspect of your permanent collection, which is thousands of Soviet-era press photographs. This is just an extraordinary thing to house in Barrie, so I can't imagine why it ended up here, but do tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a gift in 2001 from an anonymous donor. It's an archive of 23,000 vintage Soviet press photographs, as you suggested, and they date between 1930 and 1959. came out of the Soft Photo Agency in New York, which was the center for distribution of these images in the West. So these are essentially propaganda images that represent the Soviet Union. About half the images are military-based and the other half are images of everyday life. What we have done is used it to spearhead a direction in our programming that looks at documentary photography.
And do you think it's important to get children involved in art at an early age?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. I think one of the things increasingly we find in this era is the search for authenticity and creativity, and to be able to work in a hands-on kind of way. So it's not just coming, though, for those art classes, it's to be inspired by the kinds of objects and artworks that they see on exhibition here.
Well, I believe an art class is starting shortly. Do you think I could go down and be part of it and get my hands dirty?
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Nigel.
Hello, Christy. I'm Nigel.
Nigel, how are you?
Thank you very much for letting me join your class. And what are we going to do today?
Oh, we are going to be doing monochromatic paintings with some tape resist.
Excellent.
Winter landscapes.
Okay, and can I sit down here?
Yeah,
can
we
I
have it
join the
all
class?
ready for you. Here's a palette. And
You're trying to fool me, aren't you? I can tell this is upside down.
yeah.
Okay, now it looks like trees. Okay, that is a painting. That looks utterly cool. What do you think, Grace? You like it too? Prost, na zdrowie, chin chin, konedzi, and cheers. I'm off to the Holland Marsh Winery, a recent addition to the viticulture landscape, and try saying that after a wine tasting. The Holland Marsh, just over halfway between Toronto and Barrie, Ontario, is a reclaimed wetland that has become one of Canada's most fertile agricultural areas. The rich organic soil is perfect for the countless market gardens, which cover the marsh and where they grow crops, carrots, celery, leafy greens such as bok choy and onions. Canals cut through the area to keep the polders dry and explain the marsh's name. In winter, the land is resting between seasons, the tractors silent, the barns empty, and the crates stacked high awaiting the next harvest. On the edge of the marsh, where the soil conditions change to a sandy texture, a surprising addition to the agricultural landscape has introduced a new crop, grapes, producing fine wines. Good morning, how are you?
Good, thank you, Nigel. How
We're
are you?
here with Nori Nassisian, whose family-owned business Holland Marsh Wineries is, and we're here to talk about the winery. Nori, tell me why on earth you would put a winery in a marsh?
Where we are particularly is a very unique location within the marsh. There's a lot of clay and sand in this soil specifically, which is excellent for grape growing. It's been producing really good fruit for us to work with.
How many years did it take before you actually got your first bottle of wine?
It takes about 3 years before you get your first harvest off of a vine. And it takes an additional minimum 1 year before you get a wine that's suitable to be consumed. So it takes about 4 years from the date that you plant that first vine in the ground to produce that fruit. So like I said, it is a lot of patience, but the patience is well worth the product.
Now your family has wine in its blood, I guess.
Absolutely. And us being Armenian, it's also in our culture deeply. And my father's a third generation winemaker, and he's always wanted his own proprietary winery in Canada, so it was a perfect place to start.
Must take a lot of people to run this place. You must be a good local employer.
Well, we like to think so. We are a very boutique style winery.
So when you get to the point of harvesting, you bring in local people?
Sure. Every year it's a kind of a different cycle. We kind of take whoever's interested. We do a lot of tours in here as well, and these folks are just so excited about it, and they even volunteer just to come by, just do it for wine, just to get out in the fields, and it's a really exciting process. And even as a family, we've got a lot of family friends that just love the whole kind of aspect of that collecting process. Because imagine this, throughout the entirety of that year, you're working for that one moment in time where you cut that grape bunch off of the vine, and that's it. You're finished. Like all that labor is done just to produce that one little bunch. So it's honestly just an experience you have to feel more than kind of describe. So for me, it's very difficult to describe the joys of that moment.
And what time of year do you do that?
Typically, third week of September is our first harvest, all the way until second to third week of October.
Remember, the third week of October, I'll be here picking grapes.
We'll be waiting for you. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Right now, the vines are sleeping under
Yes,
a
they are.
blanket of snow. Is this very cold weather harming them, or is it good for them?
These vines will actually withstand up to minus 25 degrees Celsius, and they're all grafted onto cold hardy rootstocks. So being an Ontario winery, not only are we limited to the varietals that we can choose to plant, but we're even more limited being a little more north of typical regions like Niagara or Prince Edward County, for example, where their climate is a couple of degrees warmer than ours.
And I assume that being in this cold climate that you make ice wine.
We did an ice wine, our first batch was in 2011. So that came out amazing. This year, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, no promises.
And you've got a whole bunch of volunteers who came out in the middle of the night and in the frost and
It's a very
cut the-
romantic process.
Romantic,
Yes.
not freezing cold.
Under the moonlight, you know, it's dark, and then you're collecting grapes for wine. How much more romantic can it get?
So here we are in this fantastic space. Tell me about this and what you use it for.
Well, this, what we call our clubhouse, was established for our wine members, where they can have a meeting space to get together and just enjoy their day. And we wanted to have a space where our wine members could come in and host their events in here, and just be connected with what we're trying to build as a wine community.
So there's no oak barrels here, it's all these great big stainless steel tanks.
Yes, so we oak and produce our wine in these stainless steel tanks. It's just a different style of winemaking altogether. It produces more of a crisper wine in the end.
And how much wine do these tanks make?
Well, these bigger tanks are about 5,000 liter tanks. That's as big as they get at our winery.
I noticed you got some little bags in your hand. So
Yes.
what are these things?
So these are different oak samples. Now the main oaks that we use, American, Hungarian, and French oak, we've got different samples of each one. The way we apply these oaks in these tanks is an oak bag. So we'll fill that oak bag with as much oak as we need, hang it in the middle of the tank, let it oak over a period of time, and when we're ready and we're satisfied with the flavor of the wine, we'll remove the oak and have that ready-made wine.
So what's this first machine here, Norrie?
So Nigel, this first machine is what's called a crusher destemmer, the first place any grape comes to.
So that crushes and destems.
Absolutely.
Next?
And then it comes to either this machine or this machine. Now, this is a smaller press, what replaced the foot stomping back in the day.
Okay.
Used primarily for ice wine. This bigger guy, it separates the skin from the juice,
Right.
essentially.
Now in this one, do you just hit the grapes with this big stick, or does
If
that
you'd
use
like,
to crank
but
them down?
It's going to take some time before
Right, so we stick that in here and
You
we
got
just
it.
crank it down with these and they squish all the wine out and it comes out through the sides.
You sure know what you're talking about, Nigel. That's exactly what it does.
It's amazing, because I actually don't. I'm relying on you. Let's go and see where the wine goes next.
Sure. All right, Nigel, so this is the washing machine where we wash our bottles, after which these bottles transfer to this machine, which fills them with the wine. And then it heads to the corking machine where we put a cork on the bottle and it's ready to be consumed.
Well, I'm glad to see you still use corks. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Absolutely. Well, what these corks are called is composite corks. Now, these corks have two discs on each side, and these discs prevent that defective cork that we commonly have with real corks back in the day, where 1 in 10 bottles would be corked. Corking is a process where the wine's been damaged because of a defective cork. So with these, we minimize that, and statistically speaking, we should only have 1 in 10,000 of these corks defective.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of corks, let's go and pull a cork out of a bottle and taste some wine.
I think it's about time, Nigel.
Excellent.
Let's go. This is my kind of wine.
Okay.
It's predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon with just a touch of Bac Noir. Observe the color just on its own. It's a little darker, which means it's got a lot more tannin to it.
Right.
That pucker that you get off that
Right.
taste. So, especially in wine like this, you certainly want to give it an extra couple of rotations because aeration opens up the bouquet of the wine.
And
it
do you
opens
use
up the
the
flavor.
oaking in the, I'm sorry, do you use the oaking in the red wines at all, or only in the whites?
Absolutely. With especially our reds,
Yes.
oak does add an interesting characteristic
Right.
to it, a spiciness to most.
Look at the color of that, isn't that beautiful?
It is, and if
It
you notice the
really
legs,
beautiful.
it's this wine will age very well, 10 years.
Just a wonderful bouquet on that.
It is, and just observe the complexity in this wine. As a 2011 wine, this wine will age up to 10 years.
Okay.
Just imagine
Yes.
having a nice red meat with
There's
this.
all sorts of things in it. Oh, yes.
Sure, vegetarian options go with old cheeses. An aged cheddar and aged Parmesan would match this wine perfectly.
Yeah, but I can just imagine a great big English-style roast beef.
Hey,
with
anything
Yorkshire
sounds
pudding
good
and
right
this.
now.
I'll come up and cook for you one day.
I'm gonna hold you to that one too.
Okay,
so-
very good. That is just outstanding.
It is, and
So
wines.
you're very proud of this one. Is this the one you're most proud of?
I'm proud of them all. They're all like
Okay.
our little babies, but I do have my preferences. Each wine is different for different occasions, so there's always a time and place for each wine.
Norrie, thank you so much. We've been
Absolutely,
here
Nigel.
with Norrie Narcissian at Holland Marsh Wineries, a family-owned winery, and just a great addition to the viticulture landscape. Thank you for joining me today at the MacLaren Art Centre in Barrie and the Holland Marsh Wineries in Newmarket, Ontario. For more information, please check out their websites, and please visit my website for all sorts of extras about the show. We'll see you next time on Escapes with Nigel.